Okay. So some of the questions that we had that came up, we just tried to consolidate some of those and move them into buckets so we could get through our conversation for this afternoon and give you guys some of what you were looking for. So a more general question that has come up to several of us today in some of the sessions. As funders move to upstream approaches, where does that leave traditional service providers?
Any of our panelists want to start with?
I'll start. At least for United Way of Greater Houston, we're right there with you. We understand the importance of the upstream, but we also know you can't do any of that without the direct service providers. So, can y'all hear me? I can't tell.
Can you all hear?
We'll just play musical microphones. Can you hear me do this one? Can you hear me?
Just one more. There you go.
Can you hear me now? All right, so back to the beginning. As United Way of Greater Houston, we understand the upstream part, we believe in it, it's important, but we also know you can't do any of that without the direct service provider. So we are not walking away, we are staying steadfast with those that are providing direct services in our community, because that's really where the rubber hits the road, right? So we try to talk to our funders about that all the time. Spreading out this convening and collaborating and doing all that, but you also have to support those that do the work on the ground. So at least that's what we are.
Oh, good.
I'm gonna let you off this mic. Here.
So I actually think this move upstream is something that's going to cause us all to have to stretch and grow in different ways. And we are going to need to blur these lines between service provider or community healer. We're going to have to break down the silo between providing traditional services and doing empowerment work. And funders can be really helpful in working with groups to move at a pace that is authentic and true to the community. But also I do feel very strongly that we need to move in that direction. We don't have enough services to provide services as long as we have communities that are killing people before they're born. We have communities where life expectancy differences are 17 years. So we can't expect services to just pick up all the pieces at the end. We must figure out ways to get ahead of this curve, and we will not service our way out of this problem. We are not going to climb ourselves out of this problem. So we don't want to abandon the need for services. There will always be a need for services, but we do need to figure out ways to do that in which we're doing community change, structural change, policy change in the same places and spaces. And I also want to be very clear that I think service providers and the people that work with folks that need services are some of the most authentic, powerful advocates for deep community change, because they understand that people don't live single issue lives, and that the roots of oppression, power imbalances, racism are all converging on a number of issues. So we've got to figure out ways to do this and abandon the idea that there's an either or way that we're going to accomplish the equity that we need in communities.
And Vicky and I are standing here going, so many of the other questions up here. So another question posed was, how do we move through the uncomfortableness of talking about race and history?
Well, I think one of the things that we've got to do is be vulnerable. And that's hard to do. And for many of us, I think we need to forgive ourselves for some of the things that we have put barriers up and think that we've done. And one of the other things that a best friend of mine said, you got to give yourself a little grace. And so before we can even have the discussions, I guess I'm saying we have to deal with ourselves. And until we do that, those discussions aren't going to mean anything. And one of the other things that I found is admit that we don't know what we don't know. Because we go into these conversations, and we talk about this in our group, because I'm African American, I'm going to represent all the African Americans at the table. And we can't do that. And it's going to be a process, and we need to do this in pieces. We're not going to do it in one meeting, we're not going to do this in 1 week, 1 month. It's going to be a process, and we've got to do it in pieces. And we talked about, like, if you have a puzzle laying out, when people put puzzles together, they don't just do it in 1 day. They give the space to put the puzzle out, and they give the space to do 1 piece at a time, and then they come back to it. So I think that it's going to be a process, but I think it starts with us. It's not going to be a whole group. We have to start with ourselves.
Yeah, I turn to young folk on this. But the interesting thing in that Brotherhood Elders Network that I talked to some of y'all about is that we've got this intergenerational group of African American men, and there are things that the young warriors are putting forth and talking about, in ways they're talking about it, that the old brothers are like, they don't know what to do. and so my answer to that is to really take leadership from young folks. Because they're having these conversations. And they're coming up with new language and new ways of thinking, and they're pushing the envelope on how we think about all of these things. And we need to be open to that. And I'll be honest about where we're at in relationship to some of these new forms of thinking. And the other piece to that is to break down the silos between different groups. Because as Black folks, or as Latinos, or as Asian American, or as Native American, or white folks, figuring out how we break down those barriers, we first have to get in community with each other. And we don't do that. We don't know how to do that. And true alliance and coalition will allow us to not compare oppression, but share oppression.
I like that.
And that then becomes the basis for really learning and understanding what's similar and what's different and how we move together to make change.
That's an excellent point that leads to another question that we had, and that was, how do we bring policymakers and lawmakers to the table to hear the ideas for change?
I've been asking that question for a long time. No, seriously, because I've been doing this work for 25 years now, and the voice that is consistently absent at the table is young people. And so the only way to do it is to come with them and then get out of the way and say, they're the expert, not the, you have to provide the space and the way to do it. And at this stage, we've got enough youth leaders who are really in movement and in organizing that they're making their own space. And so I think the point of it is now to basically have their back, but not their front.
You can sound loud.
The way I understood your question made me think about how important it is to create mechanisms for young people to go testify and have experiences in front of local elected officials. Young people are the most powerful advocates for what they see and what they need, and I just feel like there is a way to get around whether it's school barrier or, this is happening during the school day. If we can figure out ways to make those experiences meaningful enough for their teachers or administrators to get a bus of young probation kids to come and get some education on a certain topic, get a little bit of information, and then take that from their heart and from their experience to articulate their own solutions is very powerful. In our last session, we were talking about young people doing photo voice and photographing conditions in their neighborhoods and saying, I see an empty lot here and it could be this, or if the fence was down, I wouldn't have to jump the fence to have a safe place to be with my friends. And then using that as an advocacy tool to demand resources from local government for new changes in their community. So we have to do that in formal and informal ways. I think there's some movements in different places to have youth councils and youth commissions, and youth should be a lens for policies that are coming before them and saying, this is going to have this consequence on us, or this is how we feel. And those things can be developed and formalized in local government.
The only thing I'll add to this is, the youth movement around climate change is a real deal. And we need to figure out how we're connected to that in terms of the work that we're doing. Because climate change affects our communities more than anyone else. And having our young people as a part of that movement, which is a place in a space where they're very, very empowered and in movement, I think would be one way to move in that direction.
It's almost like they read these cards here, because this next question ties right into that. What are some of the ways to make sure young people are part of the implementation workforce for community-based efforts? Jobs, not stipends.
I'll start with that. So I think part of it is getting their voice out there, first of all, and then as nonprofits, we have a reputation of bringing young people in for either free labor or extremely reduced cost labor. And not sure what the answer is, because it's usually a budgetary restriction, but if we're going to bring it to the table and have them bring their skills to the table, we should pay them for what they're bringing. And I think that's the way to start. I think nonprofits are the perfect place to start, because we're the ones setting that example going forward. And I also think it can be policy change too, that some of these college programs require 1,500 hours of internship, most of it's unpaid, so they're going to school full-time, doing internships, and having to work to get through school. And then if we could make that where it's no longer free labor, but it's really paid labor for the value that we're bringing to the table.
My thoughts on it are that realistic, effective workforce development for youth is really one of the holes that we have in a lot of our communities.
Okay, hardly here.
Is that better? Realistic, effective workforce development programs for youth in our communities, particularly youth in the juvenile justice system, is one of the real holes that we have in our community. And so, being able to figure out how to create pipelines for these kinds of positions, both in terms of organizing, but also in terms of employment and jobs in sectors that help to build parts of the community that help to promote the health. And some of that may be in terms of green jobs, some of it may be in terms of youth development, some of it may be in terms of other areas of work, but that's a part of creating that sustainable process for youth development. That's a part of building community health and healing communities, is having that piece in terms of the economic and educational opportunities created in a way that is more systematic and actually has, at the end of the day, an actual job attached to the training.
First, I really love what the poet Marlon said about young people and jobs and having jobs that are about dreaming. And I think we really need to think hard about that we're not just, if we're talking about the future workforce, we're thinking about the places that young people are going to contribute their minds and their ideas to management, to all these other things, not just be, limited to a certain narrow set. I think pipelines is such a critical issue. I didn't even know public health was a job or a career until probably my third year in college. And so there needs to be more exposure to the range of opportunities. We need to stop acting like nonprofit is not a job. It's like a big economic sector that's contributing to jobs, and we need to create places for young people. And I'm just technically talking about, that's not her official title, but talking about the future of work. And there's the future of work is always filled with these sci-fi fantasies about robots taking over our jobs, but the robots can't take over jobs that have to do with mental and emotional connection, peer-to-peer, management, ideas, and thought leadership. And those are the things that our young people can do and be cultivated to do. And really, I have a young boy, I have a boy in junior high and a boy in high school. The schools are, by and large, not doing a good enough job for our young Black and brown and indigenous communities. They're failing our Black boys at 50%. No business can stay in business creating those outcomes, and it's not producing the right kind of training for what the future looks like. Really stupid example. My kid was in 3rd grade, and they were telling him to make an analog clock, and I'm like, okay, fine, he needs to learn how to tell time, but they got iPhones, iWatches, make it relevant to the future that these kids are coming up into. So I think we have a lot to do in terms of thinking about what schools are really creating those outcomes for Black and brown young folks, particular boys, and do much more of that.
I'm from Ohio, and I'm just enjoying this, but one of the things that I do want to say is that we keep trying to fix things that are broken, and we talk about what we need to do, and if things were right, we wouldn't be up here. I think we have to do better at holding people accountable, instead of keep trying to make us fit into things. How do we hold people accountable? And go into those places and have, what do we say? We say teaching moments and learning opportunities. Because we're not doing a great job of that either. I'm very overwhelmed, and I'm glad that it's happening here like it is in Ohio, but I'm very frustrated that we just keep trying to fix. We need to go in and hold people accountable. One of the things that we did in Ohio, we had the, I have to get it right, the Ohio Youth and Family Resiliency Group. And we worked directly with those people that did the work. So we worked with the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. And we paid the youth for coming in. But they also were a part of the legislative hearing. And it wasn't just about letting them have a voice and we give it for them. They spoke to the legislator. My daughter ended up with a college scholarship from presenting at that, and they also ended up changing one of the laws that provides a safe space in schools for kids. So when I'm sitting there listening, it goes back to, again, we keep trying to fix. But where the money is and hold people accountable.
For those of you that were fortunate enough, there was a session with Houston's Peer Wellness Specialists here today, in the morning and the afternoon. And that is a group of trained peers who the City of Houston has worked with to really help them learn how to advocate and teach others, their peers, how to advocate. And so if you didn't have the opportunity to hear them, there will be a video on our website. You may be interested in going and watching that, as well as other videos from some of our other sessions. But just to hear from them about how having opportunity to use their voice gave them that strength that they needed in order to go and support their peers, not just in a way for their emotional wellness, but also in their learning how to use their voice and to be advocates for what's best. So with that, how do we engage parents and young people in social policy to advocate for well-being in regards to land use?
Can you please repeat the question?
How do we engage parents and young people in social policy advocacy, especially in land use for well-being?
So we had 2 sessions on this today that were really super conversations about, first of all, the idea that our neighborhoods are really not just happening by accident, the way they're designed. So when Dr. M this morning said zip code is a better predictor of health than genetic code, that has a large part to do with our community design, how they're built, how they've been invested in. So we need to engage people in that conversation in a way that touches down in their real lives. Young people need to understand that that didn't happen by accident. And if they don't already know that, young people can already see when they get bused from one neighborhood to the next, they know they're leaving one world and entering another, and they know that it's not fair. And they know one world tells them hope, and one world tells them opportunities and resources, and another says, does anyone even care about my neighborhood? And so we need to activate that passion and power. And parents are already involved in a lot of policies. social policy, we do need to invest in organizations that help organize and galvanize parents in ways that are sustainable. When we talk about our parents living and working in low-income communities, they have to fight on so many issues at the same time on top of their free job. We need to understand that and create some true mechanisms to activate, support their voices being heard, but we also need to put some responsibility on organizations and the residents to hold electeds accountable. What we learned in our sessions is that what we call the broken land use system in LA is alive and well in Houston. And we need to undo that mechanism, that process where developers are going straight to council people and local legislators and making decisions on top of community. Community gets it, and we just need to create more mechanisms for people to be involved in these very technical decision making, but it's totally possible.
Traceé, can you speak to also just parent engagement? Because Manal talked about both parent and young people, but some of the things you talked about in your session were really, what are some of the techniques or strategies around that, the parent engagement?
I think one of the things that we have to move from in language is not what's wrong with families and what's wrong with kids. We have to talk about what has happened to them. And so when we say what's wrong with them, we're looking at them like they've done something, and we're not holding anyone accountable. Let's have a change in dialogue there. And there's an expectation, and we talked about, there's an expectation that parents already know what they need to do. And I use the analogy of baking a cake, I can bake a cake. And so there's an expectation that I do because I'm an African-American woman. So here, they grow to bake a cake, and I can't. So when we think about parents, how many of them can bake a cake? How many of them don't have the skill sets? How many of them don't understand what the expectations you have of them? And if we give them the places and spaces, not what we want them to have at the outpatient clinic or at the hospital, but if we come to the community where they don't have to catch the bus, they don't have to get childcare, we can come to the library, we can come to the community center and sit down in places that they feel comfortable in, have those conversations. What does that look like? What if we ask instead of telling people what we want them to have? What does it look like if I'm sitting at the table when you're making the decision instead of bringing the program to me and telling me, make it work? What does that look like? If I tell you I'm hungry and you give me these books because you got them at a discount, we're going to give those to you for you all to read. We think that you could do better if you could read better. I'm hungry. I don't have clothes to wear. I'm going to lose my job if I go to one more parenting meeting. But nobody's listening to that. You're saying that parents don't care. And they do. And one of somebody here that's a teacher, she said she learned that instead of listening to the parent, they're going to make her come to a parenting meeting at 9:30 in the morning. She said, I got to be at work. But if you call me at 12, we can have a conference call, that'll work, and I can participate. The minister said, no, she needs to be there at 9:30. So we have to change to work with people, work beyond that traditional matrix that we have, that was given to us. That's not what works. And as a community, we've got to stop saying, what's wrong with those babies? What does it look like if you go to them and ask, Mom, is there anything I can do to help? If she tells you no, that's okay, go back again. Because at that moment, you're not a trusted messenger. And we need to realize what the system, we need to realize that what some of these systems have done to families, when you threaten and tell them, if you don't do any better, I'm going to take your kids. Why am I going to come back to you for help? And all the messages that families and parents get, it's not always positive, but we reach them with good intent. How do we move beyond good intent? And say, I don't know what I'm doing. But if I can ask you to help me, but that means you got to be vulnerable. And not everybody wants to do that. So I'm saying to everyone, go home and look in the mirror and see who you are. And if you realize you don't want to do it anymore, get out.
Thank you, I got to bring it in.
So a question came up, what is ALICE or ALICE? And how does it impact children and families and their well-being?
I think that's for me. So Alice is a study that was done to look at really what does it take to make ends meet. It's not based on poverty, because we all know that's a joke. And it's not based on what it costs to live in New York if you live here in Texas, or what it costs to live in California if you live here in Texas. It's based on what it costs here. And not even just here in Texas, here in Houston, or here in the Rio Grande Valley, or here in East Texas, or here in North Texas. It's all different if you live across our state. And what's important about it is changing the conversation from the conversation that we've been having ad nauseum for decades about people in poverty as though it was their fault. And it's changing the conversation to those that are in between poverty, which almost everything's built around serving those in that income bracket. But there's little to nothing left for those that are just above poverty, but are not making enough to make it. And they're struggling, and there's nothing there. So it's changing that conversation so that we can hopefully start changing policy when it relates to these families and what they're struggling with. Just a little tidbit of what Alice looks like here in the Houston area. For a family of 4, 2 adults, 2 children, an infant and a toddler, it will take them $61,404 a year just to make it. I'm not talking savings, I'm not talking taking vacation, I'm not talking anything else but just to make it from month to month. When you say that to most people, especially here in Houston, they think you lost your everyone's mind. They're like, 30,000 should be plenty. Well, obviously those folks have not lived on $30,000 a year in a very long time. It was probably 1970 when they were making 30, and it was great in 1970. But that's bare minimum. So let's say something major happens to that family during that month. There's a big health care. There is a major car repair that needs to be done. That's going to completely derail that family because they don't have the savings to get them over that hump and move to the next. So Alice is talking about not only what does it take, but what are the consequences of not getting to at least that threshold. Consequences are housing, choices in your housing. If you choose to live in a community that has what you need for your family, good schools, access to good paid jobs, access to other services in the community, then you're going to sacrifice what you have available for food, what you have available for health care, what you have available for transportation. But if you go where you can make ends meet in your housing, then you may be sacrificing your access to the public schools that you want your children to go to. You have access to good paying jobs. Let's say you sacrifice on transportation. You know, LA is a lot like Houston. If you don't have a car, you can't get around. I don't know if y'all at least have a subway, right? An underground train.
There's overground and underground, and some people live carless lives and styles there and have figured out a way to do it, but a lot of people are in their car. It looks a lot like that freeway out there in the morning.
So here we just built train tracks that go about 4 blocks. We all know what we're talking about, right? We spend millions of dollars to make it 4 blocks. Or a metro bus, good luck on that. If you don't want to take less than an hour to get to your destination, you don't have kids or have to get groceries and all the other things, that's just doing public transportation. So you have to make those choices. Choices in healthcare. If you buy the health insurance that's offered through your employer, even though it's going to cost you $900 a month, or do you take a risk and not get it and see how it goes? These are all the choices our families are making every single day. Single households, families, you name it, they're across our spectrum. How many people are living like that just in Harris County alone? 43% of our population. If you look at the state of Texas, it's the same. 43% of the Texas population is living below that threshold budget they need to survive. And it's the same when you look across the United States. Virtually every state that has done the study has shown we're getting close to 50% of our national population is living below that threshold. That's unacceptable. And until we start having that conversation, you can't have a real conversation on what are the wages that really are a living wage? What is the health care that we really need to support people in their communities? What is the housing policy that we need to support people in their communities? What is the education policy that we need? All of these are tied into what it takes for a family to get by. Then if you build in racial inequity, gender inequity, gender identity, sexual identity, all of these other factors that impact your ability to earn a wage and a living, all of that is impacted when you look at this data. So if you're here in Texas, our gift to you is this data is there for you. There's a 2-page summary from every single county in the state of Texas. And if you really love data and like to dig around in it, there's an Excel spreadsheet that goes all the way down to zip code, and you can play around with it and see what it says for your community.
Thank you, Margaret. I want you to give a round of applause for our panelists here. And as we have our closing session and Roosevelt and Stephanie come forward, I just want to ask you any quick moments or thoughts on inspiration. What do we do now?
I think one of the things that I'm asking is that we take off our hats, not taking away from anybody's educational background, not taking anything away from parents. But if we could take off our hats and our degrees and our titles and work together in a common playing field and become people and working together to work with family and youth. And I say, sometimes we have to hold the hope for families and youth until they can hold it for themselves. But don't hold on to it too long, and when they ask for it, give it back to them. Because what happens, we want to get our numbers, and we don't show communities how to sustain what we've taught them. Because we want them to keep coming back, gotta get those numbers, gotta get those numbers. But if you're true at what you're doing, you teach them, you give them, you love on them, give yourself that little grace and let them move on so the next group of young people and family can come in. Okay?
I would just say that I think our future is in true collaboration across groups. And we have to find a way to really forge a black, brown, red partnership where we understand each other and work together through the commonalities that we find in our oppression. We are pit against each other so clearly. And it has really made it difficult for us to make progress. But virtually everywhere across this country, we've got all those groups, and we're trying to move as singular groups. And that's one of the things I've learned in the work that we're doing in Oakland is there's tremendous power in coming together across groups at a spiritual level. And we don't think about that enough, but at a spiritual level, we have a lot of commonalities as we move back into our cultural roots and foundations, and to reach back, share that, and then move with that to work together. And I think, again, young people are already moving in that direction, and we just need to kind of catch up to them.
So John, what is the age where young minds aren't young minds anymore? They start getting old minds. 26, 24?
13, they know everything. What happens after that? Well, tell me the number.
The number probably 18, 19.
Okay, so I want everyone in here who's 19 and younger work together, we can collaborate, we can find leadership. Me and Andre were talking at our second session about creating a youth collaborative that works and has leadership for our new communities. You people, you young people are going to be here in 35 years when these land use plans that are being developed today shape the communities that you're going to live in as adults. So we need to help you, support you, be supportive of your leadership, but we can do this. We have come so far as a people. In our different cultures, we have come so far as a people, and we're not going to give up. And we're going to keep doing it and keep getting better at what we're doing, whether we're working on separate issues or together issues, but we can absolutely do this. And I really love the conversations that we've been having all day. I was so inspired by Mia talking this morning about stopping being ahistorical on what we're up against and what we've been fighting against. That helps us to really understand the measure of what our souls have been able to accomplish together. So my words for us is let's keep going. We're doing great and we need to keep doing more of it and doing better of it. And we just need to stay in communication and in learning and in practice together. So thank you for being here today.
Don't talk about Alice again. That was
No,
so
no.
bad.
I'm not. Don't worry about it. Actually, I'm going to start off not so great, but I'm trying to turn it around. So, I'm a child of the civil rights movement. Born in Michigan, moved here when I was 3. My dad was on the school board in Houston, Texas, when the schools were desegregated. I lived through that movement. And then as an adult, at the age of 56, when I lived across this country, I feel hope, but I also feel a deep sadness. That there was real hope in this community back then, that we could transcend our history and move past it and really come together as a community. But somewhere along the lines we stopped. We stopped understanding each other and what we were going through and let all of those, that ignorance, that not wanting to own our own prejudice, to pretend like everything's great and everything else fester underneath, which is what we see bubbling up now. And my hope is that it's bubbling up, that maybe once and for all, we'll really truly deal with it and be honest about our history and be honest about where we need to go as a community and as a people. And that one day we really do all come together, and it's not just black, brown, red coming together, but it's all of us. Because I can't know what you've lived through, but you can't know what I've lived through. And that the day that we can stop making those assumptions just because of who you think I am versus who I am in my lived experience is the day I hope we get to someday. Because then we'll really hear about each other as human beings and sharing and celebrating the successes of our history, but also sharing